Hi, this is Alex from PHP Academy. In this video series we're going to be looking at creating a fair and equal advert rotation system. So I'm going to take a moment in the first part of this tutorial just to go through everything as well as the database structure as well. We will be creating the database from scratch in the second part of the tutorial, but I'm going to explain a bit about how this works before we go into any actual coding. So you can see here I've got a page open which would be the normal content of your website. I've just included a header and a paragraph here, and you can see up here we have an area where you would include a file that we're going to create a bit later, which is going to handle the processing and displaying of the ads. So you can include, if you follow along this tutorial, you can include your adverts in any part of your website, essentially using PHP's include functionality. So the way this works is we have a fair rotation system, and what I mean by a fair rotation system is by the adverts will display in a specific order, the order that you've added them in the database, and what then will happen is it will show each one, and when it gets to the end it will go back to the first one. So I'm just going to hit refresh, and you can see that from this first advert here we receive a new advert up on the screen. So when I hit F5 once again, you can see that it changes once again. So if we go over to the database, you can see that I've only got 3 adverts listed, and this is the last one that we viewed, this readWrite.png. So we'll go back to the default one. By the way, it starts, I know the order that it's being displayed here is 5, 3, 4, but we're actually going from 3 to 4 and then to 5. Okay, so we're going to go back initially to the initial advert. So as many times as I refresh, it's going to loop through these adverts and display them out on the page. So we also have the additional functionality of counting impressions and clicks. So if, for example, let's just refresh this data, you'll see these numbers go up. Let's just browse back to our thing. Okay, so you can see that we've got impressions here have incremented, clicks there have incremented, but that's because I hadn't refreshed before I started the tutorial. But if we go back and say click on this advert here, which is default.png, the value should rise from 2 to 3. So we click on that. At the moment I've just got the URL set to google.co.uk, but you can see that when we come and refresh this data, you can see that the clicks have gone to 3. And the same for some of the other adverts as well. If I click them, again I've just got that set to Google, you can see that the increment, the count click has incremented there. We also have an expiry for our adverts. So if you were using this on your website and you were, say, charging someone for a month's advertising space, you can calculate sort of by your own means the timestamp in a month's time. There are websites out there that convert timestamp dates, give you the current timestamp, and also add times on for you. So that's essentially how it works. We have some pretty easy to understand data in our database. We've got image, which is obviously the image that is displayed to the user. We also have the URL that the user is going to be redirected to when they click the banner. Impressions and clicks we already know about. Expires we already know about. Now shown, you may think, well, what is this? Essentially what this does is when the advert has been shown, it sets this boolean value or this integer value to 1. And the one that's left gets displayed. So you can see at the moment we've already shown this default.png and the dogs.png, which is the one up at the moment. However, the read write has not been displayed. So as soon as that has been displayed and that shown is set to 1, all of these will be set back to 0, and then we're going to start back from the beginning again. So let's go back and refresh, and we can see how that works. Okay, so we've shown the last advert in our rotation, and as I mentioned, when we browse back to that, you can see that they all show as 0. Let's go and refresh again, and you can see that the default.png, which is the one up on the screen at the moment, will have a flag of 1. And then again we do the same, we refresh, and we'll go back to browse, and you can see that the flag there has been shown to 1. Again, like I said, when that's 1, all of them will be default back to 0, and then we'll start the loop over again. So that's essentially how the code deals with the fair rotation. When we click on an advert, we don't actually go immediately to the URL that we specify in the database, but what we do is, if you look at the very bottom of this video, you can see that there's a link come up just in my browser, and you can see that we're actually going to a page called go.php, and we're specifying a get variable advert_id, and this corresponds to the ID that's stored, that the advert's stored next to in the database. And that way, what we can actually do is, instead of going directly to the website, we can count a click with the advert that has been specified. So essentially what we're doing is we're still going straight over to the target URL, however we're counting a click on the way. So the go.php file processes that. So now let's look at what files that we're going to be dealing with in the tutorial, and I'll explain a bit about them. So the first file that we've got is db.inc.php. This essentially just connects to your database or your MySQL server, and then it selects your database. So that's pretty straightforward. If you've dealt with databases before, you'll understand this entirely. We've then got index.php, which is just a standard HTML page, but what we've done is we've included this ads.inc.php, and that's this file here. So what this file here does is it loops through the database and does does exactly what we've seen here, and gives this functionality to the overall application. We've then got go.php, which I've already explained. Now ads.inc.php and db.inc.php are stored in a separate folder, and this is given we've created an htaccess document which is deny from all. I'll go over that in the tutorial and why we're doing it, as well as actually creating it. But the overall reason we're creating this htaccess file is so no one can access ads.inc.php on its own, and for example keep hitting refresh to manipulate our impression count. So the only impressions that we're getting are then from the index page. So we want to make sure that people can't be viewing these adverts, on their own in a separate page, and they would be able to manipulate the impression count. So that's essentially what we're going to be doing in the tutorial. In the second part, we're going to be going straight in, creating our database and setting everything up, then eventually getting this advert system finished.